Hey everybody! So today I'm going to be showing you how to manipulate data and create variables using method chaining in Python and polars as opposed to relying on the operators. Method chaining is really great when you have operations that are really long, cavernous, and difficult to follow and would normally require a lot of parentheses. The input data we're going to be using for this exercise is the population estimates dataset from the US Census Bureau. Columns we're going to be interested in are this population estimates column from 2021 and the total number of births in a given geography. There's two geographies in this data set. There are states, which have the summary level code of 040, and the county summary level code of 050. And so going to our code, first we'll just start with a brief explanation of what method chaining is. Method chaining refers to manipulating data with the methods instead of the built-in operators, where the output of one method acts as the standard input to a subsequent method. So in other words, we take the output of one method, we pass it into another method, further manipulation occurs, and we keep passing it into more and more methods until eventually we're ready to return it to the finalized variable. And to use a simple example, here's an example of data manipulation using operators. And so here we're creating this variable called C, and we'll do that by adding column A to column B, and there's that addition operator, and we put that in parentheses to specify the order of operations, and then we divide that sum by A. And so there's nothing wrong with doing this. The only downside to doing it is that if you have a very long and really kind of difficult operation that you need to do to create a new variable, you have to add a lot of parentheses so that the order of operations occur in the correct manner. If you don't get the order of operations down, your variable is going to be created wrong, and it can be very difficult to document and kind of share your code and have others kind of follow along with what it is you're trying to do. And so method chaining can really help there to kind of just make things more explicit with respect to what you're trying to do. And so here's the same data manipulation using method chains. And so we start with column A, and we pass column A into the add method, and so that will add column A to column B, and then that will pass the sum of those two columns into the trueDiv method, and trueDiv is just normal division, and that will divide that sum by column C, or column A, excuse me. Column C doesn't exist yet. Whoops, okay. And so that's really all there is to method chaining. And so we'll look at an example using real data down below. And so what we're going to do is we're going to compute a birth rate using Polar's method chaining. And so a birth rate is the number of births per 1,000 in the population, calculated as, and so BR equals the number of births in a geography divided by the total population times 1,000. So if you look back at our input data, there's the population of a geography and there's the births. So number of births divided by population estimate multiplied by 1,000. So going down to our code, it's exactly like we saw before. It's just that the operations are a little bit different. So here we start with the births column. So start with births, and that's another thing I really like about method chaining, especially doing it vertically like this. You can document what you're doing in the margins, and that makes it really easy to follow. You pass births into the trueDiv method, so you divide births by the population in 2021. And so then the outcome of this division will be passed into the multiply method, and that will multiply the outcome of this by 1,000. So it's a little convoluted to do, or a little bit counterintuitive if you're used to manipulating data with operators, but once you give it a try and once you get the hang of it, it really is an effective way to program. So we'll just go ahead and print out the first 10 records of this and just take a look at the result of our recode here. Actually, hold on. Let's comment this stuff out just to make sure we get rid of all the unneeded output. Okay, there we have it. And so there's the birth rate for 2021, and this column lets us see which geography had the highest number of births relative to the size of its population. This is a little more standardized. So we can see out of these 10 geographies we looked at, this county in Alabama, Butler County, had the largest birth rate, so the largest number of births relative to its population. But we are comparing apples and oranges here. We see that we're comparing the overall state versus these much smaller counties. So to put this on a much similar metric, we might just want to look at states, right? And so we can further filter that down with even more method chaining. So you notice the first data frame method we used was with columns, which is a context that tells pollers to keep all of the existing columns in the data frame and also add new columns onto that. So this BR 2021 column. So we can go to where this data frame method ends, tack on an additional data frame, so filter, and then method chain from there. So the standard input to the filter method will be the result of the with columns method. So we can say pl.call sumliv. And so you remember that sumliv column tells us what the geography is, or what the geographic code is. And so I remember this because I've used this data quite a few times before, but sumliv equal to 040. The 040 code means state. So we'll just run this and take a look at the result, and we should just get a data set of states. And maybe we'll just do head 20 instead, so we can look at more states. Or actually, let's just look at all of them. Okay, and there we have it. So let's see if we can just eyeball and see which state had the highest birth rate. Looks like it doesn't get much higher than 12. So it looks like states like, oh, actually I think it's Utah. Utah had a birth rate of 13. So very interesting. So there you have it, guys. That's how you manipulate data and by method chaining instead of relying on operators and pollers using Python. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions or comments or want me to cover any other topics in pollers, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. Have a good day.